Hey, hey, welcome everybody. It's Jen from You So Much, and I have a special guest with me today. I'm super excited. Her name is Lily, and she's going to tell you all about herself. Can you hear that? I'm sorry, I got really distracted because I'm hearing a live. That's so weird. So in my live chat box, I had a video come up and it was totally distracting me. A commercial came up.
No, I can see it's
a classic. I was like, what's happening right now?
Oh, that's so funny. And Jay Rise is in the chat. He's like, whoa, I wish I was there.
Oh, that's hilarious. Jay, welcome, welcome. When Lily's talking, I'm gonna see if I can pull up my chat box again, but it was the window with my chat box. This commercial came up and it was so confusing. Anyway, welcome, Lily. I met Lily through Evan Carmichael, a client and mentor of mine, and she's been mentoring closely with Evan, and I'm sure she'll tell you all about it. But we thought it'd be fun today to talk a little bit about each of our one words, because that's kind of, she has taken the one word and like super powered it. Like, she's done a TED Talk on it. She's doing coaching around it, I believe. And so Lily, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
Yes. Hello, everyone. I'm Lily, as Jen has mentioned. So Jen and I have a mutual contact, which is Evan Carmichael. How I came across the whole one word philosophy was I was asked to read his manuscript when he was writing the book originally. And I loved the concept of it. I know originally it was meant for entrepreneurs, and I wasn't an entrepreneur at the time. I had a corporate job. And through the exercises, I discovered that my one word is extraordinary. So for those of you who don't know what the whole one word philosophy is all about, is knowing what you stand for is your single most important core value. And then you could do that through the exercises that's in the book. You know, you think about your favorite movie, favorite teacher, favorite hobbies, and all of that. And there's one common theme that binds them all, which becomes your one word. So when I discovered my one word was extraordinary, a few things happened to me. The first thing was, I was so excited. I'm like, yes, this is what I'm all about. I love Forrest Gump because he's extraordinary. I love all of the stuff because it represented extraordinary to me. And on the other side, I started to feel a little down on myself because it's a reality check. The truth is, I wasn't living extraordinary. I was living pretty ordinary. I was fearful of a lot of things. I played it safe. I was in my comfort zone. And that's when I decided to take things in my own hands and I started to make changes.
I love it. Yeah. I love it. Well, it's not that you weren't extraordinary. It's just you weren't as extraordinary as you wanted to be, right? I mean, I think that's kind of what the one word is kind of partly our ideal, right? You know, my word fantasy, that's my ideal, right? Fantasy to live my fantasies.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's a daily practice. I still have to wake up every single morning. It's like I have to remind myself, you know, I am extraordinary, and I need to be extraordinary first before I go and inspire other people to do that. Jen, I'm actually really curious because you're in the book.
Yes, yes, I am.
Evan's book. And your one word is fantasy. Yeah. How did you? Obviously, the book wasn't around when you came up with the one word fantasy. I want to know how you discovered it.
Yeah, well, it was partially through, you know, it's a really good question because I don't remember exactly, you know, when I came up with that word, but I know at the time, you know, Evan had been, even though the book wasn't around, he had been talking about one word, right? And he had picked his one word believe, and he encouraged me to pick a word too. And in different conversations, and I didn't go through a lot of the same exercises, but some of them, you know, Evan would talk about on his channel. He would talk about, you know, different ways to do it, which are some of the same exercises he now has in the book. And so I played around with it, and it just, when I hit across that word fantasy, it just felt right to me. It was actually kind of a gut decision. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, when I picked that word, like, is that really going to be the perfect word for me? And oh my gosh, that's not going to be a word that everyone's going to resonate with. And oh my gosh, but it resonated with me. Like, it was really just when I was like, gosh, that word feels right to me, I just went with it. And then I think it was more like after I picked it, it made more and more sense to me. It was like, it kind of like a you know, a guiding light, so to speak. It just like, it fit in with everything else I was doing. I just didn't almost realize at the time. So it was really less intelligent thinking for me and more like, this feels right.
Yeah. And that's the important thing. It has to feel right for you. Yeah. Because I do a lot of coaching around one word answers, and a lot of people are like, what do you think? It's like, it doesn't matter what I think. And some people have very different one words that may make no sense to anybody else, but it has to make sense for them. I even said to one of my clients, I'm like, it could be a symbol, I don't care.
Right.
So it has to mean something for you.
Yeah, and each word might mean different things to different people, right? Because like multiple people have the word love, multiple people, I know several people who have the word love, or people who have, the word connect or whatever. And each person has their own interpretation of it. Like the word fantasy, that was the other reason why I sort of, was like, oh gosh, I might be crazy for choosing this word, because a lot of people think of fantasy as something that could never come true, right? Like they use that word as sort of like, which is the exact opposite of what I think, which is like, it's just like that far-reaching thing that could come true if you just believe in it. So.
Yes, that's true. That's true. So when you discovered your one word and you started using it and applying it, what are some of the challenges you experienced?
Well, I think the biggest was that people really just didn't understand. To this day, I still call myself a fantasy copywriter, and I'll have people be like, "What does that mean that you write for only sex shops, or do you write stories only, like fantasy stories only?" Like they really get confused. They just can't wrap their head around it. So I think that was probably my biggest challenge, because of the so many different meanings and interpretations of the word fantasy. In fact, if you like hashtag fantasy on Twitter, for example, like predominantly that comes up is like fantasy football, So, it's, but then there's a lot of fantasy authors who will hashtag on Twitter as well. So for me, I think the biggest challenge was just, what does it mean for me and how to translate that and to how to talk about that every day, because I've incorporated it into my business. I use it and talk about it all the time.
Yeah. How have you incorporated it in your business?
Well, I mean, it's like I said, I call myself a fantasy copywriter, and I also, primarily as it relates to copywriting, it's really how it fits into a story. So one of the things I'm always talking about is how your customer has a journey that they're on, right? And they're ultimately, they have a fantasy that they want to achieve. They have a longing, and that's really how all stories are. If you look at the hero's journey by Joseph Campbell, that's kind of, he portrays it as something different. He doesn't call it fantasy, but that's what I call it, right? It's like that longing, the ultimate life that you want to live. And so in your pursuit of your goal in any kind of story, and that you're going to have problems and obstacles that come along the way to achieve that goal that will help you get to that fantasy life. And so in copywriting, it's a very powerful tool to be able to look at your customers similarly, that they're going through these, struggles and have these desires, and it's kind of how that fits into your product or service. So as a service provider or someone who's selling something, if you can understand how your product and service can help your customer overcome their problems and obstacles to get to their goal, to live their fantasy life, then you can use that in your copy. So ultimately, that's kind of how I use it in copywriting specifically.
I do like that. You call it fantasy, I call it extraordinary life.
Right. Isn't that funny how a lot of times when you start really get down to it, a lot of the one words kind of like almost have that same kind of gut feeling to each other, right? So tell me why you chose extraordinary.
Well, first I have to go through the first time I went through this exercise. My first word was integrity, which was a wrong word for me. And I think some people probably experience this as well. When you're going through the exercises, it's hard to kind of look outside of what's happening. At the time, I was like, I don't even know what the word, knee deep with people who lacked integrity.
Right.
So,
right.
And I felt like, you know what, the world needs more integrity because all these people are cheating and lying and it's terrible. So I'm all about integrity. And that's where the gut feeling comes in. Eventually, all the problems kind of solved itself because I was just not in that situation anymore. And it just felt uncomfortable as the time went on. I was like, I don't know. It's not like I'm not about integrity. I still think it's a very important thing, but it's not the most important thing for me. And then when I discovered, I went back and I did the exercises again. And I think it was Forrest Gump.
That's okay. When you mentioned Forrest earlier, I was like, wait a minute, I got to find out more about this because I don't know if you know, that's my all-time favorite movie ever. And I'm always like, whenever someone asks me about my favorite movie, I'm like, it's Forrest Gump. And they're like, what?
No.
Like, no, it's the best movie ever. And I can go off for hours about it. So tell me more about, I got to hear more about this.
It's totally about Forrest. So Forrest Gump is my favorite movie of all time.
Yes.
Of all time. And when I was going through the exercises, I thought about my favorite movie. And I have watched Forrest Gump 1,000 times, and I can still watch it again. Yep. And it's the scene. Do you know the scene where he goes on this long run and he just
oh yes, absolutely. I know that scene.
For no particular reason at all. He just runs and runs and runs. And you have this guy who was a pretty simple man going out there and doing these crazy things, and he just kept on falling into these crazy events. And when I saw him running, and then I saw all these people started to join his mission to run with him, that's when I'm like, that's extraordinary to me.
Yeah. You know what's so funny about that is whenever people used to ask me about that movie and why I love it so much, this is exactly what I would say. I would say, because it's about this man who's less than ordinary, or people would see him as less than ordinary, who actually is an extraordinary individual living an extraordinary life. So that is so funny because I literally use the word extraordinary about that movie all the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's thanks to Forrest Gump. And that's
so
when
cool.
I feel like that myself, right? I'm not born in a particular privileged life. I'm not born extraordinarily intelligent. I'm pretty average for the most part. And I feel like my decisions make me extraordinary, and I could do that for other people and kind of give them an example that you don't have to be born a particular way to go out there and live the life that you want.
Absolutely. Love it. Love that movie so much. It's like deep to my heart. In fact, Jay's commenting in the chat box right now that that I'm the one who got him to watch it, because he was like, oh, you know, so many people told me to watch it. I never watched it. I think that's what he told me. I'm like, you gotta watch that movie. It's the best.
Has he watched it?
Yeah, he watched it after I encouraged him to watch Forrest Gump, and that running scene actually to me has so many amazing metaphors in it. Like it's amazing. So besides being extraordinary, it has some really cool, deep meaning, I think. So
yeah,
that's cool.
So what are some of the metaphors that you were thinking about when he's running? I'm curious.
Well, I mean, I just think some of the things that he does, like you said, like, you know, here he is running along, and, you know, all these people are joining him on this sort of simple mission. And even when he stops running, it's like he just sort of listened to his body, and he's kind of like, yeah, I'm tired now. I think I'm done. Right. Like, it's just sort of this simple, like, and they're like, what? You're just deserting us, you know, after running for 3 years or whatever. And also just like the determination he has, right? Just to keep running, and no matter what, there's just so much. So yeah.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it.
Good stuff. So tell me about, I know that you recently did a TED Talk on OneWord, right? I've only seen snippets of it. I haven't had a chance to watch the whole thing. So I'm so curious about what inspired you to give a TED Talk on this, and what the experience was like. You know, give us a scoop.
Yes. All right. So doing a TEDx talk was something that I wanted to do way in the future.
Okay, awesome. I know that's like one of those things I have too. It's like my fantasy.
Yeah, like way in the future. I didn't even think I was going to do it this year. And I had a conversation with Evan. And Evan's like, no, you're going to do it right now. I'm like, but I don't know what I'm going to talk about. Like, I need to do some research. I need to come up with the graphs. I need to come with statistics. I got to do this. It's going to take me an entire year to do a TED Talk, right? And he's like, no. You have experience and you have expertise in talking about things. You have done coaching around OneWord. You have done workshops around your OneWord. And I think the biggest limiting belief that I had around your OneWord was like, it's Evan's idea. It's not mine. That was the biggest limiting belief. And I always thought that TEDx Talks should be 100% original. And when I looked into it a little bit further, I realized that a lot of people were talking about ideas that already existed. And it was just their take on it. Like, no one's idea is that original, right? It's their take on it. And then once I got over that limiting belief, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. It's my take on it. It's my stories and the collection of the stories. And one of them is Roberto Blake, which you did the the transcription. Is that the right word? Transcription?
Yeah. Well, transcription, and then some translate it into some writing. Yeah, but anyway.
There you go. Yeah. And that's what caused me to do it. I had to get over my limiting belief, and then of course Evan pushed me a little bit more. He's like, "No, you're going to do it right now." And I started applying for it and I got in.
That's amazing.
What seemed like a year goal happened in a few months.
That's so cool. Had you done some speaking events before? I mean, because I thought you had a great presence on stage and you seemed super confident. So I'm assuming you must have done some live talking before.
No.
Oh my gosh. How many people were in the audience?
Not into that extent. It was about 100 people in the audience.
That's still a group. That's still good. Yeah.
I would say that I have done some speaking before. My speaking was more workshop related. So they're a little bit more interactive, which I'm most comfortable with. Right. I've done like coaching around it, but never like a keynote. Like basically that is like 18 minutes of you just talking.
Yeah, that's insane.
No audience participation at all. What's that?
I said, yeah, that's insane. I mean, I would love to do it too, but for a lot of people, they have a huge fear over even just standing up for a few minutes, right? So, and having all eyes on you for that long without any interaction or little interaction with the audience, which you did a great job. I noticed you like got them to raise their hand and all that fun stuff, which is super important. I know.
Yeah, I had to. Yeah, no, it was my first time doing something like that big.
That's awesome. So what was it like? Did you feel awesome on stage or were you terrified or a little bit of both?
You know what? The dress rehearsal was insane. Like I was so nervous during the dress rehearsal. And I was just like, I could feel like the nervousness in the air from the other speakers as well. Cause it was the first time for them too. A lot of them they have done speaking, but they've never done a TEDx talk. So they were all nervous and we were kind of exchanging our thoughts. We're like, how are you feeling? Like, I'm nervous too. And then the nervousness was in the air and it was just not a good run during dress rehearsal.
And then you get all the bugs out, right? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And I had the good fortune of being a dancer where I've experienced something like that before. Dress rehearsal is never good for me. I've always get nervous. And then once I get it out, the final performance is the one. So I felt great.
That's so funny. I was just thinking as you were talking about that, about how you get kind of nervous ahead of time. I'm also a dancer. I'm part of a dance group that performs. And same thing, like you kind of get nervous sometimes, like the night before you're like, actually, sometimes the more you rehearse and the more nervous you get, it's like there's a point of over rehearsal, right? You just gotta go with it, go with your gut and just perform.
Nice. I want to know more about that. What kind of dancing do you do?
Yeah, I was going to ask you about your dancing too. I didn't realize you were a dancer too. Is that how you originally met Evan? Is
yes,
at the Toronto Dance Hall? So that's awesome. I had no idea. So yeah, I'm a part of a dance group called The Soul, and I started taking classes again after like almost 20 years of not taking dance, and I totally instantly fell in love. In fact, my first class, I like literally almost started crying in class because I was like, this is like insanely, it just felt so good to my body. And I had missed it so much. And it's funny because when I went to class, I like forgot my shoes. And it was a hip hop class, which I had never taken hip hop before either. Okay. And I was like, oh my God, should I go? Should I not? I'm going to be in bare feet. What do I do? And I was like, I'm just going to go for it. I'm just going to do it because I'm here. I was on my lunch hour. I got the guts to go. Like, because if you haven't gone for years, you kind of get that nervous feeling like, what if I'm not good enough? What if everyone else in the class is amazing compared to me? All that, like all those doubts. And it's just so silly, right? It was just a dance class, like a drop-in dance class, but I just almost didn't go. And so anyway, I'm so glad I was like, I'm going to do it. And totally fell in love with it again. And so I kept taking classes there, and they offer all different styles, a lot of hip hop, a lot of like street jazz. They have one called Burlesque, which is kind of like a kind of a jazzed up burlesque kind of style. Mm-hmm. And one of the choreographers there that I was taking jazz from decided to start her own group. It was actually just going to be a temporary thing for one performance. And so instead of having to try out, she just invited some people that she wanted to dance with. And we rehearsed for 6 weeks for this performance. And then we all loved it so much and bonded so well. She was like, you guys want to keep going? And we're like, yeah. So it's been like 3.5 years now since I've joined the group. And it's amazing. Yeah, it's been a really great experience. So it's a little jazz, a little hip hop, a little lyrical, a little bit of everything kind of mixed together. A lot of Beyonce and Rihanna type style music. So it's awesome. We have a great time.
Oh, that sounds like so much fun.
It really is.
I recently got into jazz funk a few months ago, and I really like it. It's fun.
That's
music
cool.
Is good, and I did the hip hop thing, and just not for me at all. And I just looked like a goof. It just didn't work. And I'm like, what can I still do that has like that kind of hip hop feel, but a little bit prettier? So I did jazz funk.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Good. I see that there's a question in the chat box. I haven't been able to monitor it completely.
Oh, yeah, we got to do that.
Jay Rise is asking, Lily Ma, do your one words, Much and Lily Ma, do your one words have the same meaning? Is fantasy the same as extraordinary? And what is the difference? And he's going, oh my God, you're both dancers. So that's awesome. I love it. I know, I had no idea. We have all these things in common: dancing, Forrest Gump, maybe our one word.
I know.
I mean, I think there's obviously some similarities, right, between our two words when we were talking about that earlier. Because for me, like living your fantasy life is living that extraordinary life in a way. It's kind of like I feel like we kind of both are describing it the same way in a way. Although it probably means different things to us. What do you think, Lily?
I think someone asked me what extraordinary meant last week, and I could feel it in my bones and I could feel it in my gut, but articulating for the first time last week was kind of interesting. But now I feel a little bit better about it. So for me, extraordinary is knowing who you truly are. That's why it's so important. That's why I connected with the one word process so much, because I think it's important to know who you are and what you stand for, and doing the things that you truly want to do. And I mentioned the word truly twice, because I think a lot of times we think we want something, but we don't truly want it. We want it for other reasons. And sometimes we think we should be a certain way. We're not being truly who we are. And that's, to me, is living the extraordinary life. And any way I can help someone get there, I will do everything I can to do it.
Yeah, I love it. I think for me, very similarly, I think being able to express your fantasies and pursue your fantasies for me is super important. And that to me speaks to like who you truly are inside. And to me also is important for I would love it if more people were able to embrace their fantasies, right? To embrace the person that they really want to become, and to believe that they can do that. And then, to think bigger and yeah, I mean, what else can I say?
I love it. And it's true. It's like, I think there's a fear of embracing your fantasy, or for me, it would be like embracing the extraordinary life. It seems like extraordinary doesn't seem like something you can achieve. Same as fantasy, it doesn't seem like it's something you can achieve. And I think there's a lot of fear around it.
Yes.
And fear of judgment from others, maybe, like, who am I? Who am I to go up there and speak in front of all these people when I have zero experience? But
you did it.
I did it. And I'm showing other people that you can do it too. And I'm all about that.
Yeah.
I don't want people to ever think that what I did was so out of the norm that they can't do it. It's all possible.
Yeah.
Like fantasies come true, and extraordinary, you could live that way.
Yeah. It's interesting because I remember when helping Evan with the book, one of his friends, Mark Drager, also had the word extraordinary, right?
Yeah.
And I remember him saying some similar things. Like when he chose that word, it was because he wanted to live an extraordinary life, but he was like, God, it's such a big word. Like, can I really live up to it? Like he was saying some of the same things you're saying. Like he felt like kind of humbled by it in a way, but then it's like we were talking about earlier, it's kind of in a way, it's about what you want to be, in your gut. You want to be extraordinary. You want to be living your fantasy life, right? So, yeah. I'm sure that resonated with you when you read the book, right?
When I read the book, it did. I liked his story, but I think at that time I was so into what was going on, because I was going through a lot of turmoil. I had a lot of issues happen to me while that manuscript came my way, which was actually perfect time for me because I needed something like that.
Yeah.
But I couldn't really pull myself out of it. So I kind of glazed over Mark Drager's one word, extraordinary.
Yeah.
But it's after when I discovered my one word, that's when I started to go back.
Yeah.
To that
That makes sense. Yeah. Things different, like when you read the same quote 3 times, sometimes it resonates with you on the 3rd time more, deeply, just because of where you're at in your life or whatever. Yeah. Like that quote, you can't go in the same river twice, or something like that. I can't remember exactly how it goes. It's something like that.
I'm going to look into that.
Yeah, it's a really great quote. Basically, to me, it's like, yes, it's the same river, but it's changed and you've changed. And so anyway, it's just not going to be the same both times.
I I like it. I like it.
I'll have to find that quote and put it in the comments below. So I'm curious for you. I know you've really taken this one word and applied it to your coaching. So you've been doing coaching now, and is that kind of the way that you coach is around helping people find their one word and guiding them towards that?
Yeah, a lot of people know Evan, and a lot of people know the power of one word. So they come to me. Some of them want to discover what their one word is. And I like to start with that because it gives me a good foundation to work with them. It's, first of all, they need to know who they are, and I need to know who they are. And then from there, we could take it and open up all sorts of things. And then I talk about taking responsibility for your life. You know, like once you discover what your one word is, now you got to live it. How are you going to live it? And then different people take different paths from there, but the foundation of it, it's great to have the one word.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's super helpful. It was super helpful for me. I'm really glad that I did choose it, right before, as I was starting my business, because it really has helped me. It's really helped ground me and guided me. And I know Evan talks about that in his book a little bit, but whenever I'm kind of like, okay, lost a little bit, I come back to that, like, okay, what does this mean to me, and why am I doing this, and how can I apply this to everything that I'm doing in my business? So I want to help my clients make their fantasies come true, and I want to help them help make their clients' fantasies come true. So it all fits.
Yeah, and I think we're also at our best when we are around our one word and we're living our one word. We know when we're not, like we feel it.
Yeah.
Like today I was not living it.
Right.
Yeah.
I love it. Good stuff. Good stuff. Awesome. Well, I am so glad you were able to join me today for my channel. For those of you out there watching this on the replay and live, Sherry and Jay, I see in the box. By the way, Evan, I don't know if you saw that earlier, Lily, Evan actually joined. He popped on briefly to say hi.
Oh, awesome, Evan.
Yeah. Thank you, Evan, for joining, and Jay Rise and Sherry too. It's so great to see you guys. And anyway, we're going to continue this. We're going to do a weekly series for a little while and have this kind of be an experiment and see how it goes. And we might try some different things. We might be talking about some other fun stuff, things that might fit into some of my other different playlists on my channel. We'll see. We're gonna kind of roll with it and see how it grows. What do you think, Lily?
I like it. We're dancers, so we're gonna groove with it.
That's true. By the way, I meant to ask you earlier. I just want to ask you before we go off. Besides being a salsa dancer, what else do you do? Do you have a background as a kid in dance?
No, not at all. There you go. Extraordinary, right? I learned how to dance at the age of 23.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I love it.
23. I was curious about it. I always wanted to dance, and I never got the chance. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take responsibility. I'm an adult woman. I could pay for a class. I'm going to go take a class, and then I've never left the dance studio ever since. It's been over 10 years.
Oh, that's amazing. That's so cool. Well, that's definitely been the story for most of my compatriots on my soul sisters is really what I should call them. Same thing. They all either started later in life or came back to it again later in life. So it's never too late, right? It's never too late to be extraordinary or make your fantasies come true. I love it.
All right, beautiful. This was so much fun, Jen.
Yeah, thank you for joining me, and we'll see you next week. We'll surprise our audience next week what we're gonna do.
Yeah, I love it. All right.
All right. Talk to you later. Bye.